Hello and welcome on the fourth lecture of ARCHLine.XP Intermediate course. This workshop is about project save and managing large projects. By clicking on the Open Project button, I will search for István Kis nappali profile. I will first talk about save. If I'm working on a project and I choose File menu, Save Project, the project is overwritten. I draw a wall, then save the project. Draw another wall, save, then draw a third and save the project again. I will explain soon what these three saves mean. First, let's look at how to save the project under a different name. Using the File menu, Save Project As command, I choose where I want to save the file and what name I want to give it. I save it as Kis István Living Room WS. The save is complete. Now let's look at the folder structure. I open File Explorer, Documents, ARCHLine.XP Draw folder. It is always a good idea to work in this folder, create a project folder, and within that folder, different subfolders. For example, War Views, PDF and Render, and where the project will be stored. It is important to categorize projects to make them more transparent. I go back to the program and see what other backups exist. Clicking on the Settings button, I select the Open and Save tab. In the program, there is an option to make daily backups. If this option is enabled, a maximum of 3 daily backups will be made to the archive per day. If we need to restore a file, we will find it in the path to the backup archive. The archive preservation period is set to 4 weeks by default. Files older than 4 weeks will be deleted by ARCHLine. Long-term project retention is not suitable for backup, so we should always save. If there is a problem with the file, I will show you how to retrieve it. I select File menu, Tools, Drawing Recovery Manager. This will display the path to archive folder according to the backup archive I just set up. The search is done. In the archive folder, I just enter the keyword that is in the project name. I type in Kis, then click Search. Found the folder 2022. I click on it. Here is the folder with today's date, where we see the folder István Kis Day, and then 3 backups I just made. When I click on the file information is displayed below, showing exactly when it was created. This was the last version. I open it. We see that it is now in the recovered folder. From here, it is worth saving it to our own folder using the Save Project As command. I go back to the Settings, Open and Save tab, where I select to save auto-recovery information. The backup frequency is set to 5 steps. I'll show you what this means. I draw 5 walls, after which we will see Save at the bottom. So, every 5 steps the program will automatically save. This automatic save will remain on our computer until we exit ARCHLine properly. If I exit without saving and then reopen the file, the 5 walls I just drew will no longer be there because I have stopped the program properly. If an irregular shutdown occurs, it will open the last file in the automatic recovery data for us. In this case, the program will warn us that this is a temporary file, so save it as soon as possible. As I said before, neither backup nor automatic save is suitable to keep our files for a long time. We have to save them. It is recommended saving every 10-15 minutes, as the backup archive is only saved at this time. It is very important not to work with just one file, but create new versions every day. To do this, copy the file in the folder, paste it into the versions folder, and write and date of the day behind it. So every day there will be a new version, and if the client likes a detail from an older version, it can be simply copied into the new version. Let's see how this works. I open the preliminary course kitchen design workshop file and copy the kitchen from it. I select the kitchen, then click Edit Copy and enter the reference point for the copy. I go to the new version and paste it with Edit Paste command. On the right, we can simply rotate it into the place using the Rotate command. Let's see how it looks in 3D. I navigate there, then activate the 3D view. There we go. I recommend running only one copy of ARCHLine at a time. If we don't need a project anymore, we should close the window, as it may slow down our computer. Let's see what to do if we run out of space on C drive. I find the C drive in the File Explorer. I right-click on it to see its capacity. We should install ARCHLine.XP under the Program Files folder on the C drive. This takes up about 1 GB. In addition to this, the directories take up about 5-6 GB under Program Data. This is where we put the different materials, objects, profiles, and other things we create in the program. In addition, the ARCHLine.XP Draw folder is created under Documents during installation. It may contain projects and also the backup archive, which is a hidden file. In case we are short of space on the C drive and have enough space on D drive, I recommend the following steps. The ARCHLine.XP Draw folder should be copied from the C to the D drive. It is done, but the archive folder needs to be copied here too. If we already have an older archive folder, we need to copy the 2022 folder here. I go to the C drive, then select Users, where I look for the admin and app data. Within Roaming, I find ARCHLine. From Archive folder, I copy 2022 to the corresponding folder on the D drive. I go back to ARCHLine, where I have to change the folders to the corresponding ones. I go to Settings, Open and Save, and then find the Draw folder on the D in the Project folder. I go through the whole thing by always choosing the same route on the D drive as it was on the C. When we are done with that, we can delete ARCHLine.XP Draw from the C. Then empty the bin and check again how much free space now is on the C drive. Then the old program versions must be removed from the computer. In the Start menu, I type Program. Then I choose Uninstall or Change a program. I search for older versions, but keep the one that is one version earlier. What I no longer use, I simply remove. Then the C drive program files should also be wiped off the old versions. I locate the program data, ARCHLine 2020 folder on C, since the 2020 version of the program was just deleted. The objects, materials, profiles that we users have created are collected in this folder. When we install a new version of the program, the first time we start it, it asks us if we want to carry over objects, materials, and other items from the old version. This means that we no longer need this folder, we simply delete it. The next topic is the organization of the project, which will help to keep it organized, transparent, and easy to manage. Here, there are two very important steps: the correct management of the layers and the creation of layer variations, and the correct setting and identification of the views. Going back to ARCHLine, we will find the layer manager at the bottom. On the left side, I find all layers. If I select the option Use Layers in the filters on the right side, I can see only layers that are available in this project. For example, interior kitchen furniture, interior kitchen decor. Items previously copied from the kitchen project are transparently categorized. Here, we will also find a layer called Object, which contains the element that we are originally included in the project. However, this is not a good solution. It makes it difficult to work with all objects on one layer. It is recommended moving all elements to the corresponding layer. To do this, I need to create two new ones for the dining room. I go back to all layers and then choose Add Layer button. I copy the name of the existing layer, paste it into the new one, and simply change the name to Interior Dining Room Furniture. In the same way, I create another new layer and name it Interior Dining Room Decor. When this is done, I move the elements to the corresponding layer. I put the living room furniture on the living room layer and the dining room furniture on the dining room one. I use Ctrl to select the furniture I want to move and then find the correct layer on the left. I select the decorative elements with the TV and now I'll adjust at the bottom which layer I want to put them on. These will be placed on the interior living room decor layer. Since this layer was off, these elements are gone. I will turn this back on in a moment. I'm also moving the dining room elements. Now I'm going to check that I've done a good job or not. I choose the layer walk and then select the layers on which I have placed the elements. If I select all of them and unselect living room furniture and decor layer and also dining room furniture and decor, we can see that which items are not placed yet on a particular layer. Now I'm going to organize these elements too. When I'm done, I do a quick double check to make sure that our layer management is in order. In the layer walk, I just select the object layer and see that the lights have not been transferred to any layer. I select the lamps and place them on the living room interior lighting layer. I turn all the layers back in the layer manager. I then create layer variations. I can do this in the layer manager. We can create layer variations by room or by floor plan type. For example, a layout for furniture, draining or lighting. I select the Used Layer command and switch the layers on and off. If a layer is active, I won't be able to turn it off, so I'm going to make the whole layer active, as it should always be visible. First, I'm making a layer variation where only the living room furniture is visible. I use a shift to select all the layers, turn them off and leave only the living room furniture, living room decor and the living room lighting on. Clicking on the New Variation button creates the new layer variation. I right-click on it, choose to rename it and save it as living room. I create a variation where only the dining room is visible. I turn off the living room layers and turn on the dining room. I add a new variation with the plus button and rename it to dining room. For third, I make a variation where only architectural elements, for example, walls and ceilings, are visible. I turn off the dining room and press the plus button to save it. I rename it as Architectural Floor Plan. I didn't turn these off, I just locked them. So I turn them off, and with the update button I can update a particular variation. At the top, in the status bar, I can easily switch between the layer variations. This is the architectural, this is the dining room, this is the living room layer variation. Now I will continue with the views. I'll activate the 3D window and then click on the eye icon. Here I can set the perspectives. It is always recommended saving our views in a logical way. Let's start. First, I look at the dining room from the living room. I can edit with the green plus. Then I also look at the dining room from the living room, but from the other corner. I edit. Then I look at the living room from the dining room. And one last time, I go to the dining room and look at the living room, just from the other direction. I rename these to Living Room 1, Living Room 2, Living Room 3 and 4. I save another 2 views of the kitchen. I'll rename these Kitchen 1 and Kitchen 2. I'll close the dialog and then use this blue arrow to switch between views. So I go around the saved views. If we are working in a 2-story building, we might want to save it so the ground floor is, for example, 0 living room 3, 0 living room 4. The first floor is 1 kitchen, 0 1, and so on. The next topic is managing large projects. First, let's look at what a large project is and how we can measure it. First, in the File Manager, I open ARCHLine.XP Draw in the Intermediate Course, Save Project and Manage Large Project folder, and let's look at the sizes here. The file Kis István Living Room Pro is a 29 MB file, which is still small. For a more serious project, it can be up to 300-400 MB, but if it's even bigger, 800-900 MB, it is recommended looking at what made the file so large. The larger the file size, the slower we can work with it, and the slower it will render. Let's see how else we can check how big a project is. I'm going back to the program, and here under the Build 3D Model command we can see the surfaces number. This is a project with almost 430,000 surfaces, which is still small. A medium performance computer can work well on a project up to 1 million surfaces. If this number grows and reaches 2 million surfaces, our work will slow down and ARCHLine will send a warning. If the number of interfaces grows beyond that up to 5 million, a warning will be sent again. Let's look at how we can reduce the size of the project. The first thing is to check if there are 3D solids in the project. If there are, I need to delete them. The second is if there are objects in the project that are too big. When I download an object, the program warns me if the surface area exceeds 50,000. The third is whether there are objects with too much material. More than 50 materials are a lot. The 4 steps is to delete unnecessary materials from the project. Let's get started. To do this, I need to open the Profile Ends with 3D from the ARCHLine.XP Draw folder. This will contain 3D solids. These were temporarily used during the 3D modeling, but we did not create an object and accidentally remained in the project. 3D solids only appear in 3D. They do not have a floor plan symbol. There are 2 ways to delete them. One is to activate the 3D view, select the model, and select 3D solids from the drop-down menu on the left. We see that we have 76 3D solids in this project. I select it and then simply click on the X to delete it. The other solution is when the floor plan window is active and I rebuild the 3D model with the Create Cutaway 3D View command. in a place where I know for sure that I have no object placed. If I activate 3D view and select them, I can delete them in the same way with the red X. We will now deal with the second and the third points, namely objects that are too large and objects that contain too much material. To do this, I'll activate the 2D floor plan, then rebuild the 3D model and download two of them from the 3D warehouse. I choose 3D warehouse, then direct download. First, I will download an oversized object which will be the Baccarat Zenith crystal chandelier. In the filter on the left, I can select the number of the surfaces up to which the model should be displayed. If I set it to 50,000 surface area, it will only display this one crystal chandelier. I reset the filter and download the model. It is recommended downloading the version we are using or the older version. Since this is a lamp, I need to specify what type it is, ceiling. The program will immediately warn us that the complexity of the loaded model may slow down work on the project. It asks if we would like to continue. Since this is what I want to do now, to show this, I'm going to continue. I'm going to put it on the floor plan here. It is taking longer to place the object. Secondly, I will download the object with too much material. I search for the kettle teapot object and download it. Here again, the program warns me that the object contains 866 materials. Here, if I select No, it will download the object in the same way, but without material. I will now choose Yes here and place it to the floor plan as well. I click on it, choose the pencil and look at its properties. We can see that this object is divided up into loads and loads of little squares, and that's how the material has been drawn on. It is one way to export the model, but CAD programs have a different way of placing the material on the curved surface using UV coordinates, which is a completely different method. Let's take a look at the materials here to see how many pieces of material make up this model. I will now show how ARCHLine.XP help us to filter out the largest objects or objects with too much material. I activate the 3D view and then choose Dimension, Measure, List of Elements. Here we can also see the surface area, which here is a value of 214,000. If I scroll down, the first group shows the solids that take up the most memory, such as objects with the largest surface area. Here the program lists 5 items. If I delete one, the next largest will be added to the list. If I select the first one from the list and press Show Selected Item button, the program will show me which item it is. I can remove it by deleting the selected item. The next group lists the items that use the most material. In the same way, if I choose to show the selected item, it will show us which item it is, and I can remove it by deleting the selected item. If I then look at the surface area, I see that it has halved. It is not sufficient to delete these objects from here because their material will remain in the material library. We have to delete them with the project cleaner. But first, let's look at the Design Center Materials in Model folder. We see that there are 987 items in it. Even for a large project, there should be a few hundred materials here. If there are too many materials in the model folder, it means that the not used and superfluous materials are also here. However, the point of the in-model folder would be to contain only the materials that are used in the project. So, I have to delete the materials that I don't use. If I scroll down, I can see the kettle materials here. So when I download an object during the process and then change my mind and delete it, its materials will remain in this folder. This significantly increases the project size and slows down the operation, so I definitely need to delete these. But I need to save the project before I delete it. I save it under a different name. Let this be Project 3D-WS. After the save, I have to regenerate the model. To do this, I need to turn on and unlock all the used layers and rebuild the model using the Quick 3D Model command. Then we can delete the not used materials. I do this in the File menu, Tools, Project Cleaner. In the Project Cleaner, there are different categories. I need the materials now. Here, all the materials that are not used in the project. By holding down Shift, I select the first and last items, and then use this arrow to move to the removable items list. If I accept this, the program will delete them. However, I can also use the Project Cleaner to delete other elements like floor plans and views that I'm not using in the project. For example, there are these sections and elevations. If I click here, I can see what drawing is on this element. If I select them all at once or separately, I can use the small arrow to move them to the removable items list. If I don't want to delete something, I can click on them and choose Remove from the list, and it will be returned to its original place. I accept. So the unused material and drawings I have selected are deleted. Now let's look at again in the Design Center Materials in Model category, and we see that there are now only 107 items in it. Now I'm sure that only materials I'm using in the model are in there. Let's save it, and then let's look at the size of the cleaned file. The file size has been halved just by deleting the materials I don't use. The last topic I will talk about is cleaning up the Design Center. In the Design Center Objects menu, I click on the cogwheel icon and select Filter Objects by Complexity. Here the program lists the largest objects. I can click the arrow to delete them from the library. Clicking on the Delete All selected items will be deleted. This way, I can avoid having to reinsert these extra large objects into the plan when I'm working on another project, slowing down my work. The Object Manager is also good for listing items by the date of the last modification. In this case, the last 2 items I downloaded from the warehouse are displayed here. If, for example, I can't remember what name or where I saved the object, I can simply look it up here. Now I select these 2 items and delete them with Delete All command. This brings us to the end of the workshop. I hope it has been useful for you. I think it's worth remembering these steps because when designing, it's not only important how you create a design, but also how you save it and where you save it. If we have a problem with a file, we know how to retrieve it from the archive folder, and if the size of the project is too big and slow us down, we know how to reduce its size. Thank you very much for watching this presentation. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.